So, who's one of the guys that you should be thinking about making an impact in 2022 that really didn't make a huge one in 2020? Wait, did I get that wrong? In 2023, that didn't make one in 2022. I've got a couple of guys, but I want to focus on one person in particular because when you go out in recruiting world, uh, coaches get bored. Sometimes they talk and so forth. So, you hear a lot of different stuff. And when a couple of guys say the same thing, um, there's some merit to it. And I think one of the folks that you should be paying attention to, generally speaking, is Warren Brinson. Okay, why? What's the big deal about Warren Brinson? What's he done? Has he been a big player in many ways? No, he's not someone who people immediately think about. But he played in all 15 games a season ago, 12 tackles, 14 quarterback hurries. That's one a game. Now, that's not a sack, but that's one a game. And I think that he's been giving the offense trouble, or he gave the offense trouble during spring football. And, you know, the combination of Warren Brinson and Tramel Walthour, these are two guys that were not, you know, super highly recruited players. They were, obviously Warren went to IMG, but he was not someone that, was a five-star guy like Trayvon Walker or Nolan or people like they played with Nolan. But, when you think about him and then, you know, with what Walthour's done going out to junior college, I mean, I don't ever forget driving in Kansas that night to see him play. I wasn't sure Warren was going to wind up at Georgia, to be honest with you, but um, but he is, and Warren Brinson's there as well, and those are the type of guys that I mean. Tramel Walthour has started 15 games for Georgia's national championship season. 15. You can't start more than that. And you look at Warren Brinson and you just say, okay, well, I mean, they're really pretty good on the defensive line at Georgia, and that Jalen Carter left. Warren Brinson's not Jalen Carter, but he's had a lot of production. Again, 12 tackles, okay, these are defensive linemen. 14 quarterback hurries. 14. That's a lot. One of the quarterback hurries resulted in a sack against Tennessee. Four tackles, including one for a 4-yard loss against Mizzou. They really needed the defense to play well, and he did in that game. So I think these guys are guys that make Georgia. They're the ones that springboard you to national championships because if guys get hurt, I very clearly remember the Missouri game. And Smile Munden got hurt. I'm on the sideline. I don't repeat everything here on the sideline because it's just, that's kind of not that's not what I do. So, I mean, I don't think anybody does that necessarily, but reporters are always in the press box. They don't hear what I hear on the field. And so I'm the only one down there. And, Smile was definitely hurt in that game. And you also had Jalen Carter getting hurt in that game. And so, Georgia was banged up in that game for sure. Stetson Bennett was hurt in that game too, by the way. They never admitted at the time, by the way. But the way Warren played that night, and even moving forward, he's a guy that I'd watch because what we've seen at Georgia over the last few years is guys who have been in the program for a long time. They tend to make pretty big jumps at last year. Whether you're talking about Christopher Smith, um, you know, Tramel Walthour, Devontae Wyatt. There are guys that when they're in the program for a long time and they get to their final season, they make jumps. Speaking of this, I want you to jump on this deal. Right now, we've got the 2023 preview, and it's been a very popular thing. We've got breakdowns of each game, and there's stories that are not going to be posted online ever. So make sure you're picking this up. Now, there's two places to pick it up. One is right down below, and the other is at Red Zone. I know folks are picking it up at Red Zone. That's great. If you pick up Double Dogs, you're going to get them dogs. You're going to get the 2023 preview for free. So it just comes in the packaging. Same thing if you pick it up at Red Zone. Scott and Mindy are trying to get ready for the fall. It will be here before you know it. And it's a great way to get ready for the fall, the 2023 preview. So, if you're an annual subscriber at Dawg Post, you're going to get one in the mail at no cost. So there's a couple of ways to get the magazine for free. One is by picking up the book. The other is by being an annual subscriber at Dawg Post. We'll talk about that more over time. I think when you look at, I updated the board. You know what? I updated the board. I don't have my phone. I updated the board. We'll see the board soon. How about that? But when you look at where they're at, Georgia, they have really a very good nucleus on the defensive line, particularly of older players. 4 guys that are going into their final season, in theory, their final season at Georgia. They're seniors. So Warren Brinson, Nazir Stackhouse, Tramel Walthour, and Zion Logue. Those guys all now I saw 3 of those 4 people play live. Okay? And none of the 3 of them, and including Warren Brinson, none of them were 5-star can't miss prospects. But you could see with Tramel, not as much with the other guys, but you could see with Tramel his value. Zion Logue was extremely athletic immediately. He made an interception when I watched him play high school football, knocking the ball in the air and then picking it off. That was impressive. And then Nazir made a lot of plays when he was at Stevenson. I mean, he just made a lot of plays, and, he's a good player. But these guys weren't superstars, But what's happening is they're getting up to Georgia, and they're slowly getting better. I don't really know the way to put it. That's what's happening is they're getting the job done along the way. They're developing. And, you might not have to develop Brock Vandegrift. Excuse me. You have to certainly develop Brock Vandegrift. You might not have to develop Brock Bowers, but you're going to need to get him better. I mean, if he's better than he was his freshman season at Georgia. And we're going to see, hopefully he stays healthy and so forth. They developed Amarius Mims. He's got one more year before he should be a top 10 pick. Top 15. Let's just say top 15. There's guys that come in and they need to be developed. I don't see how. The development of Javon Bullard, I think he was probably undervalued to some degree. And here's Walthour right here. Okay, so these guys, when we talk about this in the preview, these guys are. You don't go to Georgia without talent. Like, that doesn't happen. Well, here they are again. See, here's this whole group. I'm trying to think how many of these guys I saw play live. So there's Nazir in the middle with Smile. There's Warren Brinson right here. And then you've got Tramel right here. And obviously Tresman Marshall I saw play live as well in Gwinnett County, of all places. He's at Alabama now. This is basically a Georgia defense right here. It's not always superstars, man. It's not. But they really, to say they get the job done is an understatement. Trey Scott got a raise the other month or day or whatever you want to call it. He totally deserved that. He has done an unbelievable job developing that defensive line consistently. I can't think of the last guy sort of who failed on the defensive line. Now, I'm sure there are people, but I just switched the board. So, Bill Norton, Arizona was eager to get him. There are some guys sometimes I feel like they're reaches, but you could make that argument about Warren Brinson and to some degree Tramel Walthour. And both those guys have been really good players for Georgia. No one talks about Tramel. They just don't. And, whatever. I don't think a lot of people talk about Nazir a lot either. Nazir Stackhouse is a really good player. They have really good, solid, really good players at Georgia on their defensive line. That's a problem too, man. And what I mean by that is if you're the offense, if you're consistently dealing with 4 really good down linemen, there's no shortcuts. you can't like, oh, we're going to shade away from this guy. I mean, okay, and then you got Nazir in your face. So I think that's a guy we've been told to take a to watch out for. But I will add Tramel Walthour in there too. Make sure you're picking up the book. You get the magazine for free.